Hello, and welcome to season 2, episode 113 of Paranormal NL podcast on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and Pocket Cast. I'm your host, Jen. For tonight's show, let's give a big shout out to who introduced me to tonight's guest, and that's a big shout out to Coley Weber from the Coley and Marquise talk show from Iowa, USA. Now, she was on PNL Podcast Season 2, Episode 83. Thanks again, Collie. Now it's time to pull up that cozy chair and a nice beverage and listen into your favorite podcast. Paranormal NL Podcast is a place where the people of Newfoundland and Labrador, Canada, and anywhere else in the world can share their paranormal experiences. PNL Podcast also believes in supporting people, places, and things to promote paranormal tourism and paranormal networking all over the world. A big thank you again to all the PNL Podcast alumni guests from season 1 and 2, and of course, our fans. We want to hear your stories. Do you have any paranormal, metaphysical, UFO, cryptid creatures, folklore, historical, books, or just tales of the weird you'd like to share as a guest on my PNL podcast? Please reach out to me on Facebook, Instagram, or Gmail, and you can see the P&L email in the episode description. After your episode, you'll become part of the P&L Podcast Alumni Network. Now, don't forget, you can also share your stories anonymously, and you can listen in with your smart TV for free on that Spotify app. Spotify. Make sure you click on the bell or subscribe or follow along on whatever platform you're listening on and get updates for new episodes. And head on over to Facebook and join our Facebook group, Paranormal NL Podcast Group. Find upcoming new PNL episodes in the featured section of the group. We're listening to our fans. Paranormal NL Podcast is coming soon to YouTube. That's right. PNL is also now on Instagram, and PNL now has a Facebook page for fans who are not on Instagram. And for Instagram Reel Drops and a spot for the PNL Bog Team Facebook Go Lives. That's right. Stay tuned for a new branch of Paranormal NL Podcast with the Bog Team, a boots on the ground paranormal investigation team doing local historic investigations in Newfoundland, Canada. Our fans asked us, and Paranormal NL Podcast merch and the new Bog merch is now available on TeePublic with lots of different logo designs and swag items. Now let's bring on the stage tonight. I have Miss Dana Louise on here with me.
Hi.
She's coming in hot from Minnesota, USA. Hey, Dana.
How are
Welcome.
you?
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me and supporting me. And it's so nice to be with you, meet with you, chat with you. You remind me of my sister very, very much.
That's
I wrote
a good
book.
thing.
No, like super huge. I'm hearkened and love that. And the thing is, yeah, she's in my book. I wrote a book, blah, blah, blah. But anyway,
Yes, your
I
book. This
yeah.
is going to sound weird, right?
Yeah, but I don't name people because like it's really weird. So that's why I don't name people.
Hold up your
But
book. I can see your poster.
oh, yeah, and I have it right here. Oh,
There
I'm
it is.
sorry. I'm doing this stupid plug. Oh, it's available on Amazon and Barnes and Noble. And all these kinds of things. So anyway,
it's an awakening memoir. Is that correct?
yeah. Well, that's what I say. I didn't know how else to term it because just briefly, I just kind of want to go on my background for a brief second.
Yeah, let's do that for sure.
Just so people understand who and how I am, so they can have like in math, like there's a dot before you have a ray, and so here's my dot. Anyway, so I the gray aliens started to visit me in my crib, and I was aware of it, probably about 9 months old or something like that. My dad, which I didn't understand or know, none of us did until, for me, I wrote the book. It came out not this April, but the April before.
Right.
And this February, a man who's a white hat CIA guy had a secret file classified about my dad working with Roswell de-engineering the Roswell craft at Wright-Patterson, talking to NASA. We as a family had no idea about all of these things. I suspected it. And it's a long story. It's a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
la la la
I
la.
definitely wanna get into that, how you found out or came to
Well,
realize that they had that stuff about him.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, this is like, so I wrote my book and it came out, and I think the White Hats or the Allegiance or the Alliance started to notice me. And so so I'm not sure who and how your audience is, because basically I would think it'd be more paranormal, but I want to say the
Well, I always
paranormal and
say
supernatural are the same.
yes, I was just gonna say, that's why I say in the intro, cryptid creatures and
Right,
UFOs and ghosts, because
right.
metaphysical, it's, to me, all paranormal.
Right. It's all the same thing. But the
Mhm.
thing is, for me, all the experiences that I had, and I want to say, I don't know, this is going to sound weird, but this is going to sound harsh in a way, because I don't mean to say I suffered through all these things, but as a child and an infant, I went through all these things, and
'Cause you
there's a
were a
lot.
contactee for sure,
A
right?
contactee, yes. So I've met 3 different species of aliens. They've taken my DNA, my husband's DNA, but I'm telling you, I've been brought up to heaven. I've met angels. I've met the demonic. I've met all these kinds of things. La 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 la, la, you know, and I suppressed a lot of it. Not that I didn't know and I wasn't aware, but I just wouldn't tell people. I mean, because the minute you say these things, all of your whatever. You know, you say these things and your credibility falls away, and people think you're a nutcase. And as a child, I was always like, why are there so many witnesses that can confirm what I went through is true?
Well, I mean, I've
And
talked
now
to a
I
lot of abductees, and
know
a lot of
that,
them
and
go
that
through
that
the
that
same
brings
thing.
me solidarity. That brings me a lot of peace. You know, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, no,
Are you there?
you go ahead
You said
'cause
you talked to people.
there's a
Okay.
lot of support groups and things like that, and,
Right.
the majority of them, I think about one for, that GraniteSky.org
Mm.
with Mike. I'm not sure if you met Mike. S No?
I don't know about any of this. So here's what you need to know about me. And it's kind of funny because I just did an interview last night. And this man sent me a thing about a guy, Jim Sparks or something. He's like, "Oh, you remind me of Jim Sparks." And so I did listen to it. And I had to laugh because I'm like, man, because he goes, "He reminds me of you." And then I listened and I'm like, "Yeah, he reminds me of me." Because also, um, and you might know this, I have kept quiet, and I don't, the little voice or the big voice, the divine voice, whatever you want to call it, told me my entire life, don't be researching other people's stories or any of these. Don't expose yourself. Stay cloistered in your sovereignty. And I knew it because I'm like, so then I can have my true story, because I worry about implanted stories and other thoughts and stuff like that. And
Oh,
just
okay,
just so
yeah.
just so your audience knows, so I had these great aliens, and then when I was about 8 years old, oh my god, seriously, you got to read the book because it's too much, and I don't even believe I mean, I have a lot of I poke a stick at things. I'm like, is this true? Whatever. But yeah, here you go. Pat Nixon and Richard Nixon. When I was 8 years old, my parents took me out of school, brought me to the tarmac at Rochester Airport, and I don't
Bring
know
it
if
in
this,
closer. There you go. Special
um,
guest.
yeah, but look, have you ever seen a name tag that has the date and all this kind of stuff? So it has the date,
Okay. Yep.
political, presidential, blah, 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 October 29th, blah, 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 all this kind of stuff. So what happened on the date, I'm 8 years old. I'm taken out to this tarmac. Up rolls Air Force One, So this is what's giving me a little bit of credibility for you folks who are listening and watching. Uprose Air Force One. Pat Nixon comes out, Tricky Dick. She walks up to me, has me a long stem rose. The media interviews me. She is not on the manifest for that day. So it's as if she doesn't exist. And for those that know, they will know about what I'm talking about in that moment. And I didn't even know about the manifest until the voice said to me, I think it was after I wrote the book. I think it was because I don't think it was in the book. Cause like, right. I'm like, well, anyway, it said, go look up the presidential diary. I'm like, what's a presidential diary? So I like Googled it. I'm like, oh my God, there's a president. So I looked up October 29th at the day and what happened. And I'm like, everybody is on there for all of the flights except for Pat Nixon. So then that said to me, okay, my God, this is an Illuminati. This is an Illuminati happening. What happened with me? So about this time, the gray started to go away, but that's when I came into the super space program. And so blah blah blah, wrote the book, ding ding dong. And then this February a man reached out to me and I don't pick up the phone. Like I have a cell phone now, whatever. I got rid of our landline just a couple of years ago because I'm a boomer. But just this man called and I was expecting a medical doctor to call me. So that's why I picked up the phone because normally I wouldn't. So this is all divine guidance, right? Spirit, divine, everybody, all the things
We'll give that some bells.
place, right? And so he goes, don't hang up. La, la, la. I'm not trying to sell you anything, but do you know Don? Blank with like my dad's name. I'm like, yeah. He's like, and so then this is when this is when the bullshit started because I'm like, oh, dude, my dad was a genius. So like, you don't think I understand what you're talking about? So he gave me this bullshit story, and I have it right here. He gave me a file on my dad. He gave me a bullshit story. We met at an encounter, and in the file is all the classified papers that my dad did reverse engineer the Roswell crash things at Wright-Patterson, and that my dad was talking to NASA, and no one in my family knew about all these things. And my husband, I had some burpful cucumbers. I know. I told you that earlier. Like, I'm sorry, I didn't really know So some dude handed me like his garden cucumbers, and I'm like, sorry, I'm burping. But anyway, so even
so reverse engineering Area 51.
Yeah, so my husband's a muggle and he's a normie. He doesn't believe in any of this kind of stuff. And he was like, oh, like that's for real. That's real shit. I'm like, what this file was and everything. So that's all, whatever. And I was kind of like, yeah, they gave me some juice. It's kind of like, yeah, because a man came up to me.
Why would they just come up to you and give you that file though? Like,
because there are some people that are government, shadow government, CIA, and they want to come forward. They want to expose what's really going on. And that's what's going, So when my dad passed away, a man came up to me and my sister. My sister doesn't she's skeptical. Oh, and that's a whole big story. But anyway, he came up to me and my sister and he said, I don't know why they fired your dad. And my dad said that he quit. He's like, he was a genius. He changed the supercomputer. And this man who handed me this file, he's like, oh, I wish, he said he found this file in the back of a desk. But then he was telling me, I wish I worked with your dad and all those kinds of things. And I'm like, if you found this file and you have no clue, you're just an average human, why would you say to me, that you wish you worked with my dad and that you knew him and stuff. So it's all the bullshit. So I love it. I love it, love it, love it, because it's like, thank you. This to me is proof. This is people,
so what's in the file? You got me curious.
Oh my God. My dad's classified. No, I posted it on Facebook. A lot of them. A lot of the stuff. Yeah, well, I'm not going to post a lot of it because legitimately, when you start to disclose a lot of secret deep state stuff, like that can, this is why I'm
Maybe
Dana
that's why
Louise.
Facebook wouldn't let us do our go live. We tried, but it was
I
like,
know.
no,
Oh,
your
no, no,
content,
honey, you know what?
content alert.
I did a month's worth of podcasts last month, and such as yours, all of these things couldn't post. All these hosts were like, I don't know, it glitched and all this kind of stuff. I got zapped by a energy source on Saturday night. So 3 houses, including my house, got taken out energetically, except for the room that I was in. Anyway, so all these things are real. It's a lot of things, but I just want to say to you, I'm watching a lot of things that you post, and
Thank you.
a lot of my podcasts, everybody like goes into the UFOs and the deep state and the super space program, and that's all glorious. But I want to give you, I want to give your audience, because I'm a death doula, and I'm like, seriously, like the realms that I go to, and what I know and what I do and all these kinds of things. I really want to talk about um the paranormal, what you might call ghosts or angels, all these kinds of things,
So
and
to the
those
folks
type of
listening,
experiences.
Dana, what's a death doula for the folks who don't know what that is, who are
Right.
listening?
Well, I'm going to tell you. Okay, so now I'm going to split. I'm always complicated. So there's a death doula, which is a normal person, but then there's a psychopump. A psychopump is somebody that legitimately has the capacity as a soul and a spirit to bring a person to the other side and transition on a
Yep.
soul level. And I can do that, but that's not how my training or
That's
publicity
similar to
is.
like Soul Genesis kind of stuff.
I don't know what soul genesis is. We
Okay.
call it a psychopump because that's an
Yep.
old school term. But what I trained as, because I went through the deaths of my parents and I saw how this medical system is so screwed up and outrageous, and people die so horrifically in this nation. So that prompted me to be like, you know how we have doulas for babies?
Right.
Old
Mhm.
people are just, or it's not always old people, but I mean, you know,
I think of
you're
more
just
like,
older.
yeah,
And yeah,
palliative and hospice kind of thing. As a nurse, that's what I
exactly.
think of, right? Yeah.
But it goes to certain levels. It's like you can be a guard to stand at the door, and if this person said, I don't want Uncle Richard to come in, that kind of thing. But you can also be a person that says, I think they need some moisture. I think they need their mouth to be wet. And it
Mhm.
can be like, oh, I can see how you are as a soul, all these kinds of things. So I kind of got into that. But I got into, and my dad, after he passed away that night, he legitimately sat on my bed. The bed went down. See, this is where your people are gonna like, yes, because I was sitting there. It was very traumatic, of course. And I was sitting there just languishing on my bed, and my hand was out, and the bed went down, and like somebody came and sat down, and I felt somebody hold my hand. I don't want to cry, and I knew it
Oh,
was
I'm
my
sorry,
dad.
Dana.
No,
Yeah.
I know, but everybody, we're all going through this. And so
Mhm.
my whole my spirit is that yes, UFOs are real, but we all need to understand that the departed is real, that our souls go on and continue. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid. It's a transition. Babies cry when they come into this realm, and it's just a transition of energy into a corporeal being, and then we're leaving. And it's just a beautiful thing. But so many times we leave people, and there they are languishing, and nobody's taking care of them, and all these kinds, or understanding them. And a lot of normies, muggles, it's like in about 100 I'm going to say 200 years ago now, because like I'm old. When I was born, it was 100 years ago, but now it's 200 years ago.
The
But anyway,
boomers are getting old now.
yeah, I'm like super
We're all
old, but I'm
dinosaurs.
like, people honored that, and they were with the body and talked about it, like, and it's almost as if people are discarded now. It's kind of like you go to
Well, look at during COVID, right? I mean, Dana,
I
there were so
know.
many people in the ICUs and they weren't allowed to have family and they were with them.
Right. I mean, how
So,
horrid
can
is
you
that?
imagine what they went
How
through?
and see, these are the things that I'm like, I can't even encompass it. It's like I can't encompass it, but how can I help it?
Right.
And so this is why I want to talk to you tonight.
Yeah,
Um,
so tell us your messages. What do you wanna
Right.
talk to us
So
about?
today, what really came through was, because I'm gonna say I'm a golden retriever. I'm a big derp, and I'm a skeptic. I'm gonna read my book, but I'm gonna say like I don't believe in anything. Even one time, my husband was like, "Well, you believe in crop circles?" I'm like, "Where'd you come up with that?" Excuse me, shit. Because I'm like, no. I'm like, don't just throw me under all of these, whatever.
I mean,
I
you can
don't
talk
believe in
about
all these.
UFOs and you can talk about the supernatural
They're all
or,
the same
it's
thing,
all the
though.
same all rolled into one. So,
It's
yeah,
all the
I'm
same thing.
I'm
It's all
intrigued about
pure
your file on the
vibration.
floor there.
Yeah, it's all about being waking up. But the thing of it is like today the voice came through and said, "Dana." Okay, right. I do see ghosts, but today the voice was, "Dana, that's baloney. You need to differentiate." Because I have friends like they see ghosts, and when you see a ghost, they're languishing and la la la. And it's a repetitive pattern of energy in a house. And let me tell you, houses are alive. Please understand,
Well,
houses
we
are
can have
alive.
residual. Is that what you're referring to? Like a
Exactly.
repetitive pattern? They
But
just keep doing what they're doing and they don't see you versus
right,
somebody intelligent
right.
who
And
interacts with you,
and that
right?
is classically a ghost. So
Mhm.
it's like Maria constantly looking out the window for her lover. Oh, here she is, the ghost of Mrs. Muir, whatever. It's like a repetitive pattern. And that is a true thing.
Mhm.
And then there's the poltergeist that like might mess with you a little bit. But then I'm like, today it came through because I think I'm talking to you because I see your audience, I see your posts and stuff like that. I'm like, they're like, no, Dana, what you see is more I don't know what they were calling it, um, an aberration or a true avatar or something like that. Because what I see is true 100% solid beings.
Energy.
Yeah, but they have a thought, and like my because I'm sitting here in my son's bedroom. My neighbor down here, her dad came, he hit me in the arm twice, really hard, like super hard, and he woke me up, and I didn't understand that
In
he
spirit
knew.
form, right?
Well,
Yeah.
he was solid like a human being. So
Mhm.
that's how I see them.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. I
so
mean,
he hit
there's a
me and he's
like
like,
you said earlier, when you got touched, your dad held your hand.
right. But I didn't see him. So to me also, I wouldn't say that's a ghost. It's not a repetitive pattern. It was a visitation, right?
Right.
And he was able with all his might to do as much as he could at the soul level and energy level that he had, because probably during that night he was probably maybe reaching out to other people, like, if he had so much energy. I mean, those beings can only as above, so below, right? So he only had so much energy that he could do, and he probably used some of my energy as to come in and communicate and sit and be with me. But what I've seen and what I do see is true live people in their true life form. And like I said, my friend's dad hit me twice, freaking hard, excuse my language, but he was connected to me, and we didn't understand at the time after he passed, and I went to his funeral, that he knew my grandfather. right? And so there was this family familiarity, and that's how he was able to come and visit me. And then my sister and I went shopping in Stillwater, Minnesota. She'd never seen a ghost, and we were at an antique store. It was kind of like one of these, larger, big rooms, and the rooms were connected. I'm sorry, I'm like kind of feeling the cucumbers. Sorry.
The cucumbers, watch out.
The cucumbers.
You're back again.
Yeah, but there was like a door.
Okay, we're in Stillwater, Minnesota.
Yeah,
We're at an antique store. Yeah.
And there was a door in between. And so there was kind of like the small items, and then there was the larger furniture items. My sister and I go in there, and there was kind of like a center aisle. Right? We've all been there. La, 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 or you should be there. Anyway, so we're going down there. My sister's ahead of me, and she turns around, she looks at me, she's like, "Did you saw the girl, right? Did you see the girl? Where'd the girl go?" I'm like, "What? The girl? Did you see the girl sitting right over there?" I'm like, "Yeah," because I'm a derp. And she's like, "Where'd she go?" I'm like, because she's pointing it out, like I wasn't really thinking about it, but I had seen the girl, which is how I see angels and all this kind of. I'm like, "Oh yeah," and she's like, "Where'd she go?" So then I'm like, "Okay, let's hunt." So we're opening up the chest of drawers that she was sitting on. Like we're hunting we're the only people in this room. It's a large room, very large room. And we're hunting it down, la, la, la. And my sister's like, because this is her first time, she's like, "Oh my God." She's like, "Where'd she go?" So then my sister's like going into the other room where the small items are, the delicate items. And she's talking to the staff. She's like, "Is there a woman? Did she come through here?" La, 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 all these kinds of things. And I was like, calma. I'm like, "I think we just saw a ghost." And she was like, this was her first one. Because this woman looked real and solid, and she was sitting on like a hope chest and all this kind of stuff. And my sister was like fascinated by it. I'm like, that's how it looks, But that's what I say is like, that could have been attached to the trunk that she was sitting on, but this girl was wearing modern clothes, probably from the 80s or 70s. She just looked like a normal person. She looked like she was waiting for something or working there, super bored. She was sitting on like a 1800s trunk, all this kind of stuff. But I mean, like, we both saw the same thing. We both saw the girl, and my sister's on one end, I'm on the other. So this girl couldn't have gone past either one of us. Right. So we sat there and had some beers and wings, and my sister was like elated. She's like, "Oh my God." Like, she saw her first ghost. I'm like, "Yeah, that's how they look to me. I don't see them in their death phase. But I can't call." So today's thing for me was, you can't call it a ghost. It's not a ghost. That's not a ghost. A ghost is a repetitive pattern, and la, 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 la. I'm like, oh, okay. To be fair.
Well, there's so many different things in that store. I mean, like you said, it could have been attached to anything, right?
Right.
Or
I think she was attached to something, but she just sat there, and I think she wanted to be seen because we were sisters, so a lot of love, like, it's energy fields, it's frequency.
Female energy, yeah.
Right, and she picked up on it, and she was sad. I don't know what her story was. I mean, if I could have gone through any bits and pieces of the luggage, this or that, we could have figured it out, maybe, But so I said to my sister, I'm like, as we sat there in Stillwater, and if you come to Minnesota, for heaven's sakes, go to Stillwater. It's amazing.
I was going to ask you that for some paranormal tourism. Besides that store, where's a good place to go?
Oh my God, Stillwater is amazing because we have these beautiful cliffs
for paranormal tourism.
Oh yeah, and there are ghosts all around that. I mean, it was a big lumberjack time and all these kinds of things. If you really want to do like a tour, go downtown St. Paul. They'll totally give you a tour and everything. But it was kind of like so my sister was fascinated by this, and we started to play what I play with other people, the what if, because she's like, oh, she was discovering things were coming forward to her. So she's like, oh my God, like, remember, how people like they go somewhere and they're like, oh, I thought I saw Uncle Joe. What if that was really Uncle Joe? And I'm like, I know. What if? And then I'm like, what if half the stupid Viking games are just with the paranormal? I'm like, because our dad, he would have loved any of the sporting games. I mean, like, all these people, what if instead of being a ghost or a specter, what if they're seriously coming down and interacting? Because that man, my neighbor's dad, freaking hit me twice,
So tell me what the history is of you said as as a in below so above, or as in life
Right,
so in death. So many people I hear say that.
right.
What was it with him? Was he a crooked man or angry at your
Oh, no, no, no.
dad,
You
or
mean, no, 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 no.
the
So
ghost that hit you?
right. Oh, no. Okay. Because here's the deal. Okay. So I'm laying in bed, and I get hit like super hard,
Right?
and I wake up and he hits me again. I'm like,
Could you see
WTF?
him?
Oh, hello. He's like a human. He's hitting me. He's
Yeah.
totally solid. He's like you. If
Why do you think he's
as
so
if you,
pissed off?
because I'm going to tell you the story.
Okay.
So he hits me and he goes, "You going to work?" And right away, my brain's like, because I've dealt with aliens and angels and all kinds of shit and shadow people. I'm like, oh my God, Jesus, whatever. And it's like, bring up the file like I'm like the $1 Million Man or whatever like Bionic Man. I'm like, computing. Anyway, I'm like, what? He's like, then he hits me again. Are you going to work? And I looked at him, and he was tall and skinny, kind of like Fred Astaire, but he was wearing engineering clothing for the railroad from like the 1940s or something. I'm looking at him, and I legitimately in that moment, I'm like, well, you're not my grandpa. Like, you're wearing the garb of my grandpa. You're not my grandpa. My grandpa's like heftier, solid German. This guy's svelte. And he's like, you want to work? I'm like, so I'm thinking, okay, so I used to work at UPS, and I used to have to get up at 2 a.m, and I had to do very dangerous work. And so I wouldn't drink during the day, or I mean, I would drink at night. No, I'm like, I wouldn't
Have a
drink.
day drink.
Yeah, well, I would just drink at night typically. No, I wouldn't drink during the week. So then I felt, I'm doing the systems coming out. I'm like, oh, I feel a little pixiated. I think I had some drinks, some wine, hanging out with your girlfriends or something like that. I'm like, oh, this must be a weekend. This is a very fast thought. Okay. It's a very fast thought. It's like, I'm like, I had some drinks. This must be Friday night or Saturday night. I'm coming online. Am I going to work? I'm like, no. And he's pissed off. So he storms off. He has to storm off around the bed. And guess where he goes to? The bathroom, which a lot of people understand copper piping and water. A lot of entities come, or ghosts. I don't want to say entities. I'm going to tell you spirits come in and out, and they use that frequency through that. So
Yep.
he
They love the
went
water.
around the bed. They love the water.
Mhm.
Well, and that's a lot of things. The UFOs love the water too. Anyway, so he walked around the bed. And in that split second, I don't know what happened to Dana, but I'm like, oh my God. I threw off the covers, jumped out of the bed, and I ran into the bathroom. And as I'm doing it, I'm like, what the hell's the matter with you? What are you going to find? He's peeing. Oh, excuse me. Or he just solidly hit you. You're going to get into some fisticuffs? Like, whatever. And I'm like, I don't even know, because I'm a derp. I just ran in there to I was curious to figure what the hell that was about. So I ran in there. I'm like, what? And he was gone, of course. But I mean, it would have been really cool, because I would have been like, so, hey, you hit me. I'm like, I'm going to have this conversation with this guy. Anyway, all of these things are going through my mind, because I'm weird.
Right.
I'm sorry. You might have thought something different. but this is me. I'm giving you my experience. So the next morning, I call my girlfriend, like, you don't believe what just happened to me. Like, I got socked by this guy, la la la. And she's like, railroad garb. And again, like I said, I attended this man's funeral. Just, I don't know what the timeline was. She goes, my dad worked for the railroad. I'm like, crap, so did my grandpa. And we figured out her dad was an engineer. My grandpa was a brakeman. My grandpa did kind of like his cups, and he's a brakeman, so he's could be in the back, go to sleep, or maybe he was in a hostel, like they used to like park and then just do some like cheap rooms, like a hotel, la 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 la. Anyway, so I think the thing is, her house is only one house away. I think it was a familiarity in vibration. So he walked up the line. He's doing his job, and he's seeing my decrepit grandpa being a loser, having some cocktails, and he hit me thinking, I'm my grandpa. Are you going to work? And I'm like, no. And he stormed off. He was pissed off. It's hilarious.
Maybe you thought you were still working at UPS or something.
No. This was totally railroad stuff. This totally was all railroad. He was in his timeline.
He was doing his own thing. Yeah, residual.
He was doing his job. This had nothing to do with me. Yeah. Nothing to do with me other than I was familiar. I'm family. And I was probably had a couple of cocktails, which also makes another familiar vibration, if that makes sense. Yeah. Had I been probably completely sober and not hung out with my girlfriends that night, he might not have picked up on me. Or maybe he had visited my girlfriend like my dad visited me, right? He was visiting her, saw this beacon of loserdom. You're going to work? You know what I mean? So I thought that was very interesting. But so when I see these apparitions or people, I have other friends who see people and they drive down the freeways and they see them as they're dead. They see them like horrible.
It's funny because both times you mentioned him, there was an ambulance going past my house or your house or something.
Well, and the funny thing is when my dad perished, like, oh my God, I thank you. That must be my dad giving a signal, because I was dropping off my son at college. I was like an hour away when I got the call from his assisted living. Like, your dad is floundering, put it in the best terms. Should we take him to the hospital? I'm like, why is that a question? But by the time, and I'm an hour and a half away, and he's 3 minutes away from the hospital. And when an hour and a half later I was driving down Osborne Road or whatever, and I knew that there was an ambulance in front of me, and I knew that my dad is there. And just let me tell you a little bit of a thing for everybody, FYI. If somebody is from a death doula or any perspective, just hospitalization care, if somebody is really floundering, like you think they're having a stroke, these things, whatever it is, do not, I don't even care if you don't have healthcare insurance, this, that, or the other thing. If you want that person to live, don't show up to the lobby. Don't show up to the check-in. Don't show up to emergency care. They are going to like, what? You have to go through an ambulance, and then you will be seen. You will be immediately seen. You will be taken care of. It's the scourge of this healthcare industry that we have in the United States.
Remember now, Dana, you're in the U.S. and Canada is completely different healthcare.
I know.
I'm sure.
I know.
Every other country who's listening in the world right now.
I know.
Yeah, we can make a few comments on
You'll
that.
die in the United States.
We won't turn this into a political episode.
Yeah, I know. I'll back away, but I'm just saying, in the United States, it's a thing. If you ever like, oh my God, because that happened to me. I chose not to go through an ambulance and all this kind of stuff and whatever. But in the United States, it's a real deal. If somebody's actually freaking dying, go through the ambulance if you want to save their life, because if you walk into the emergency room, they're going to ask you to take a number and sit down. And that is the truth. Anyway, so
let's talk more about your dad and the papers that they gave you. Is there anything else that you want to talk about with that, or some of your public speaking, or some of your contactee things?
Well, I don't know. God, now I'm kind of like coming up on a
And
blank
we
with the word.
talked about
Oh,
this is
what about the
going to
Ouija
sound.
board? Okay, I need
Oh,
to talk to you
okay.
about the Ouija board because that was the other thing.
Okay.
Okay. All right, now we're gonna get deep. If your audience wants to go deep,
We're going to do a double episode tonight, folks. I usually cut it off at the 30-minute mark, but I'm letting her
Are
go.
we at the 30-minute mark?
No, we're good. Keep going. We're going to
Okay.
do a double episode because you got a
All
lot
right.
on your plate that you want to talk about.
Oh my gosh. Like I legitimately a lot of people like will interview me for 3 hours or it goes
We're
on and
going
on.
to,
I know.
yeah,
We're gonna
we're
keep it
going to,
light.
yeah,
But I do because I appreciate the things that
yeah.
you post and all the questions
Thank
that you
you.
post. I'm like, dude, been there, la la la. And you'll always see me do a thumbs up or something like, I got a story, so have me come back, but whatever. So one of the things is, so I have these two neighbors down at the end of the block, which, were near and dear to my heart. And the one, her father passed away. Cucumbers coming back a little bit. Sorry. Anyway, so when I first met them, they would do the Ouija board. And I was like, ooh, no, not doing that, this and that. And then I got to know them and I trusted them and I trusted their ability, this, that, and the other thing, and their protocols. And I read about this in my book. We did contact Amelia Earhart to the point where I ended up calling this researcher. This is back in the 90s, like mid 1990s. I called this researcher who had a show, like, whatever, a show on TV about Amelia Earhart. And because we were like, she was coming through on the Ouija board, and we're like,
Tell me you found out where she crashed.
okay, we had the name of like an island and stuff like that, but then also in my book, I talk about what happened. And my girlfriends were all like, we don't know if this is true. And so this is like emails were new, people. That's how old I am. I legitimately had to call him on the phone and I would leave him a phone message. And then the next day, if you can imagine this, he would call me back and leave an email. So if we were full of baloney and if we weren't giving him facts, this would never happen. You'd be like, screw you, girls, like whatever, right? So he kept calling us back and he kept asking us questions and stuff like that. And then he was kind of vetting us, like, who were these children? What was this? What was the name of the hotel? What was this? What was that? Blah, blah, blah. And so, like, I think we answered it. He would never say yes, no, maybe so, but he kept calling back. And this was like this big time researcher on the TV show. And we're like, this is cool. But then Amelia got pissed off and she's like, don't talk to him anymore. Because then she figured out he was asking us because he didn't know. And I fully believe that. It's written in my book. And so all these things kind of played out. So at the time, I was like very upset, at first about the Ouija board, blah, blah, blah. Come to understand that certain people who can handle it, it's a tool, people, la, 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 you need
Yes,
protocols.
you got to know how to use it and got to know how to open it
Right.
and close it.
Exactly. But then when I was writing the book, the first 3 years that I wrote the book, I was just writing the book. And my neighbor down there that was doing the Ouija board or whatever, I sent her a copy and she's like, well, it's very vanilla. I'm like, okay, what? And so I said a prayer and Spirit said to me, if you're going to do this book, you're going to have to do it the right way. I'm like, okay. So then I was exposed and shown a lot of things after that. That whole last year of me writing was when the wheels on the bus fell off. And one of them was about the Ouija board. And I'm like, seriously, are we going back to that? And I didn't. So it came through programming, whatever. Okay. Anyway, this is what we're getting into. All right. So I'm like, la, 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 eat my popcorn, watching a show. And it was about the Exorcist, which I'm like, this is great because that's the first and really only movie that scares the crap out of me because I'm like, this is real. And but that's how I feel about it. But anyway, so here was this pastor, and I have posted about it and I wrote about it and blah, blah, blah. But he's like, he's talking about exorcisms. So the boy who was in The Exorcist, so it wasn't Reagan, a girl. It was an actual little literal boy from, I think he was in New Jersey or something like that. He was East Coast. All these things were going on. Nobody knew what to do. They brought him to Missouri, to a monastery in Missouri. And I'm going to tell you that this boy, exists to today. And the priest who supposedly jumped out the window with the demon, that didn't happen. A priest came forward and said, I'll take it on. And he took on the demon, and he lives today in this monastery in Missouri with that demon, and he's cloistered off in a wing. Okay. And this priest that was talking about it talks about how he does many exorcisms. And he said, oh, a lot of times their eyes turn green and slit. And then here's Dana like leaning forward, like, now you got my attention. And that this entity said to him, we've been here longer than you. You can't touch us. And in that moment, I don't know if your audience can go here. I'm like, oh shit, he's talking to the reptiles. And he knows that too. And the largest exorcist would be the Pope. So there's a bunch of all convoluted things. And you can read my book because I get into a lot of that. But what I took away from all of this, and it wasn't so much about the Ouija board, and there's other chapters, and I talk about all these things, and television, which is programming, but it speaks a lot, because I'm big into frequency. It speaks a lot to us being relaxed in a hypnagogic state, watching programming and TV, and in how that the powers that be that are negative can be influencing us, such as a Manchurian candidate, almost like a zombie. And I'm watching
Yeah,
this and I'm
kind of
seeing it.
sheeple instead of the people, right?
Right. And
Mhm.
and I think your audience would agree, this really super happened. We can feel it more in the last few years of that.
Hence the awakening, that's why you're calling the book Awakening, correct?
Right. But I
Yeah.
mean, I think that people can feel that there's people that you interact with, but all of a sudden they switch off. And I'm telling you that this is a setup so that at a certain point in time, like a Manchurian candidate, they can be engaged and clicked on to do the being of the powers that be. And so this is very delicate. And this is something because there's a lot of spell casting that's going on. Now, there's some people in your audience that they might be all about all that. And that is who and how you are. But I am not about spell casting and doing things. My whole thing is harm none. And so I would not do something that would harm someone or a collective being of my agenda, right?
Right.
Because I'm
I don't
full.
believe in that either.
Right. So I'm about people being whole, holy humans. But I'm
Mhm.
going to say, and what I wanted to talk to you today is about keeping us, because I'm more, if you wanted to call witchcraft, I'm more of a green or white witch. I'm like Gaia, this planet being green. I call myself a sorceress, as SOURCE, source energy, because I feel like most of these religions have been man produced, and they complicate things, they screw things up. When I see God or Gaia or whatever you want to say, the true source, it's simple, it's complicated, it's amazing, but it's simple, so my whole thing was like, oh my gosh, we're being set up, and we're being manipulated. And there's this whole spell casting of division, of hatred, of that you have no powers. And I hate it. Hate's a powerful word. I'm going to say it. People who I'm going to say Christians nominally don't really believe that their thought, word, and deed, that their prayer actually does anything, that their frequency that they send out, that they're divine, that they're whole, holy humans. They don't, they're asleep. And so the negative energies and entities, they're like, gear up, giggity, giggity, and they're spell casting over all of us. So this is in my book. I wasn't going to do any energy exercises, and as I said before, that last year when I was so vanilla, the voice said, Dana, you got to put in your energy exercises. And I'm like, really? I don't want to do that. And they're like, don't you want to leave this for your descendants? They need to know. Don't you want to leave it for them? And I'm like, okay, yeah. Well, wouldn't you want to leave it for everybody else? I'm like, oh my God, do I have to do this? Because now you're exposing me. And so the energy exercises that I have in the end of the book, some of them will be very shocking to muggles, very awakening, because they will have to look at the divine fact of that they are creators. And I did interact with AI. And in my book, I call it a crystal skull. I didn't realize it was artificial intelligence, which is non-creator intelligence. God, now I'm talking a lot. It has been since the beginning, since the beginning of a time. We think artificial intelligence is here now and all this kind of stuff. That's baloneyism, people. That's baloneyism, and I think you all know it. So my whole thing is, and then at the end of my book, I said, if there's one thing you take away from my book, Pollyanna, is the random acts of kindness.
I remember that. Yes.
Right, because that's how we screw up, putting it politely. Sometimes I speak French. That's how we screw up their agenda, because they want us divided in negativity. Those are lower frequencies. And if you just like, I don't care. I mean, I see so many of my little friends or something, and like, oh, little daisies walking around. I'm like, yeah, be that little daisy self and say something and do something nice. Just say, like, I like your hair, as you're standing in line at Walmart. I don't care what it is, but we can drop these beautiful drops of existence and all this kind of stuff and help other people out. And those spread like ripples on a pond, something
Lots of
nice.
rainbows.
Right. And all these things. And it's cheap and easy to do. And it's for free and all these kinds of things. And that's what messes up their agenda. And that is what we have to be really aware of. And I know it sounds stupid. I know it sounds contrite or trite or whatever the word is.
Are you talking about, are you saying that the Illuminati is negative energy and that the awakening is more use the positive energy and the positive stuff to get rid of the negatives?
Right, because they feed off of us. I can dig in a little closer. Hollywood discloses a lot of things. Look at the movie. What a cute movie Monsters Inc. was, but that's about Loosh. They feed. We're little batteries, and they feed off of our trauma, our fears, all these kinds of things. They want us fighting. They love hatred, they love inner fighting and stuff like that, and then we're not cohesive. And then that's not the divine Gaia energy either, of being green and all that kind of green and growing and stuff like that, and Gaia together and all these kinds of things. And that is the utopia, because they can't create, because they are non-creators. And I'm talking about women. We have a portal that brings little water astronauts into this 3D density. I'm telling you, it's for real. I'm like,
That's
that
a
is
new
the
one.
truth.
Water astronauts. I like that one.
We started off as little water beings. We are water people, and then we come out into this air, which seems kind of harsh and all that kind of stuff. And we're breathing all the same air that everybody's ever breathed on this planet, which is magical. Can you imagine, like, wow, what divinity is in this air or in this water or in this planet? I'm like, when you start to open yourself up to the magic, and then as creators, they can't create. We can. That's why they use us. They have to use us, and they have to manipulate us. So they try to manipulate our thought forms into their dystopia. They want it to be Mad Max and like, let's just all be like, nah, 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 like all this kind of stuff, and that's great. And as a consumer, I'm like, yeah, Mad Max, because I could be a badass bitch for like 5 minutes. But then I sit there and I'm like, okay, you know what? I do like Doritos. I like toilet paper. I like I like my life. I like, all these, bougie things because like in the United States or in the northern hemisphere where you also live, we have a very bougie life, and it's kind of like that all goes away. So it's great to think about it for 5 minutes, but that's entertainment. That's entertainment. Do
Right.
you want to literally live like that? No, you don't. So we have to pull up our bootstraps and our underwear and put our big pants on or whatever to say, I choose no. I choose green. I choose Gaia. I choose other people, even though we kind of hate them when we're driving. But I'm choosing this.
Yeah. So
And
take away the message, everybody. Random acts of kindness
yes,
with DanaLouise.com. Now, mind
yeah.
you,
It
we're coming
lifts
up
you
on
up. Oh, I'm so
Dana
sorry.
Louise Hour. Dana, tell everybody now, to the people listening and watching, where they
Oh my
can
God.
follow you and your
I
work
know.
and all your good
Thank
stuff.
you
Where
so
can they
much.
find you?
Thank you so much. I know, because I can talk to you, because I love you. I could talk to you for a million hours. But anyway, so here's my book. I'm just going to tell you, if the shadow government is hindering, I might be speaking the truth. So come and find me. I'm sorry. But yeah, we all have to like be in kindness. Hop, skip, and jump. Even if you're alone, go out and hug a damn tree. Oh my God, they need hugs and all these kinds of things. But
So where else can
this is the
people
real
find you
deal. Oh,
besides the .com?
DanaLouise.com, even though they'll tell you it's dangerous. I'm so dangerous.
I know, we couldn't even go live. It said this content is inappropriate.
I know, I
Ooh,
get shut
makes me
down.
wonder, maybe some of this stuff is,
I
yeah.
know, I get shut down because we're telling the truth and we're telling each other to love each other. And if you were like a Christian person, isn't that what your master said? Love one another. So let's be, just stay in kindness, people. Thank you
All
so much
right.
for having me on your show. Thank you for holding this space. I know
Thank
I'm
you, Dana.
babbly, but I'm like trying to get so much out there.
No, you got it all out there. Thank you so
I
much
don't know
for
about
being
that,
on the
but
show.
thank
Everybody
you.
check out Dana. Yeah, we love you.
Appreciate it. Yeah, get
Yes,
my book. Support me so I can go to conferences and talk to other people and share the love and spread the love. Thank you so much, everybody.
and check out all the cool spooky, things over in Minnesota, USA. Thanks,
Yeah.
Dana. I'm gonna stop the
Thank you,
recording,
my
but
dear.
hang on
Love
with
it.
me for a few minutes for the wrap up. Here we
Thank
go.
you.
Thanks, everybody. Stay tuned for next time.